sloppy with a dribble. Williams running ahead of the pack, goes in and throws it down. Holmgren, Gilgeous-Alexander. Hartenstein, beautiful bounce pass to Williams. Two gorgeous assists from Hartenstein, and the Thunder up 3. Couldn't do anything with it, so they reset. Williams, beautiful cut and finish. Jalen Williams with the flush. He's got 8 early points. Halliburton, beautiful pass to Shepard. Shepard stolen by Caruso. Outlet Williams goes up again. Layup is good, and the foul. OKC pushing Dort, going coast to coast, kicks it out. Jalen Williams puts it up, puts it in, three-pointer.
Jalen Williams, 40 points last night in the win for Oklahoma City. Diesel 120-109. Oklahoma City takes a 3-2 lead in the NBA Finals over the Indiana Pacers. That audio was just about a minute of 2 minutes of Jalen Williams highlights. 40 points last night. What a night for him, and a big, big win for Oklahoma City as the Thunder now have a comfortable lead, not the dagger that we talked about yesterday, Diesel, but with this game last night meaning so much, we talked about it yesterday. What a statement win for the Thunder last night.
Yeah, 100% of the pressure now is obviously on Indiana to respond. And OKC now the first team to win back-to-back games in this series. And we'll see. We'll see if these Indiana Pacers can respond. We'll see if Tyrese Halliburton can square himself away and get 100% healthy for game number 6, because it feels like, Cole, one of those situations where they go back on the road. Oklahoma City just closes it out nice and clean in someone else's building.
It's funny you mentioned Tyrese Halliburton, Diesel, and you and I have a very nice agreement with ESPN that anytime we're going to talk about something, we need breaking news right before the segment. Oh. And they send it to us, right, in our agreement that we have. Right before we went on the air today, breaking news: Tyrese Halliburton is believed to have suffered a strained right calf and will undergo an MRI to determine the severity. So you mentioned Tyrese Halliburton, Diesel. You talk about Oklahoma City potentially closing it out on Thursday. What did I say about a week and a half ago? And you and I believe it was the day we were at the golf course. Mm-hmm. I knew all along watching Tyrese Halliburton that something wasn't right. He just hasn't been himself. Last night, injured. I think he got injured a little bit in Game 2 as well. But Diesel, him being out, even though he tried to go out there last night in the fourth quarter, I mean, that's your best player. I mean, not a lot of hope, right?
At halftime, Stephen A. Smith was saying, shut him down, sit him, try to get him as much rest as you can for game number 6, because you're going to have him, right? He's like, this game feels like it's a lost cause at this point. It feels like there's no way Indiana was going to come back and win this one, so why burn out your star? Why not send him straight back to the locker room, start getting him treatment immediately? Then again, Cole, Stephen A. Smith is of the era where players went out and played hurt, where you went out and played sick. He was there. I mean, I don't know if he was in the building, but he was actively covering the NBA when Michael Jordan scored 38 in the flu game. You've watched these players who are injured, who are sick, whatever, tough it out and have big performances in big games. So how do you make that decision? It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. Him being out definitely will impact the game. Game 6 also will impact the line as well. T-Swizzle on the YouTube stream says Jay will give him a few years and he will be a league superstar. He's really good, man. What he did last night was super, super impressive. Diesel, speaking of Tyrese Halliburton, before we move on from him, here is what he had to say last night after the game was over.
I mean, it's NBA Finals. It's the finals, man. I've worked my whole life to be here, and I want to be out there to compete, help my teammates any way I can. I was not great tonight by any means, but, it's not really a thought of mine to not play here. If I can, walk, then I want to play. So, they understand that, and, is what it is, and got to be ready to go for Game 6.
So let's park on this Tyrese Halliburton thing for a second, Diesel, before we get into what happened last night. Number one, to your point a minute ago, I applaud him for wanting to be out there. However, last night you saw, and in basketball you see a lot, that if a player's not 100%, especially if it's a leg injury, like a calf injury, like he has, the ability to get past somebody is not there, Diesel. The ability to get that extra step of speed past a defender is not there. So if Tyrese Halliburton decides Thursday, Game 6, I'm going to give it a shot, I love the heart, but if you're truly injured and you're hindering your team, he scored 4 points last night. Is it truly worth him being out there?
Well, I think it depends on what's happening in the game, right? I mean, the Pacers are predicated on fast movement up the court, right? Of pushing the ball and then ball movement. Now, if they just so happen to be playing against a team that doesn't defend the pass very well, and Tyrese Halliburton can get himself open, and he can kind of camp out in no man's land, and they play off of him just a little bit because they don't believe that he's a threat, maybe he could stand around, post up, and hit some shots. That obviously turned out to not be the case. So that's the strategy there. But, I mean, what do we want? What do the basketball viewing public want? Do we want to see these guys tough it out, right? This is the end of the season. This is the finals. As he said, there's nothing after this. So does he want to be the guy who sits on the bench and watches his team lose? No. But at the same time, I get it. He's hampering his team. He is their star, but he is a hindrance to the team.
And I think it's so tough in the sport of basketball, Diesel, because there's 5 guys on the floor. It's not like football, right, where if you have a receiver who's banged up, you can run him out there as a decoy, and hopefully you're able to do other things offensively because what your injured wide receiver is doing to the defense, right? It's not like that in basketball, especially when it comes to your best player. So, I agree with what you said. I do love seeing him tough it out, and I love his heart because we don't have that anymore in sports. It feels like players who just have that heart. I love that aspect of it, but here's the problem with these. Last night he played 34 minutes, and he was 0 for 6. 0 for 4 from the three-point line. His only points came from the charity stripe.
Yeah.
4 points last night. So how do you – here's the tough job. If you're Rick Carlisle, how do you weigh this situation? Because, like you said, he is your best player. He is the best player on the floor. You have to have him out there if you want a chance to win. But also, when you talk about that balance – right, the old seesaw that you played growing up that you wrote on, what's the other side of it? Is, okay, well, if he's out there, are you limiting guys like Obi Toppin and Thomas Bryant and Tony Bradley and TJ McConnell from the possibility of them stepping up and having a big game?
Well, a good question is, who was it? T. Swizzle brought up in the chat. TJ McConnell was playing well, 22 minutes, 18 points. The dude was playing really well. Why don't you give him a few more minutes? Why don't you see if Benedict Mathurin can find a way to get hot in the second half? He had a ridiculous, Game 3, I think, where he just went off in this series. Maybe you lean on those guys because that has been your bread and butter throughout the entire series. I mean, yeah, Pascal Siakam is good. Nesmith can put up points from time to time. Miles Turner, really good. But you've leaned on your bench, right? You've made this series about being able to get 15 to 20 points out of 4 or 5 guys off of your bench. Why didn't they lean a little bit more into that?
No, I'm with you there. Philip Rollins on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line also talking about T.J. McConnell. He says the way T.J. McConnell was playing, Tyrese should have been sat. They were coming back without him, is what Philip Rollins is saying on the text line. And it does bring up an interesting point, right? Because it goes back to what I was saying with Rick Carlisle. How do you balance that? Because this guy's a Hall of Fame coach, right? He knows what he's doing. But this situation's tough. And I think when you look at what to do Thursday night in Game 6, you said it, the pressure's on Indiana. And it almost feels like, Diesel, that if Tyrese Halliburton's not a go, if he's not 50, 60, 70%, it almost feels like the Thunder could, and I'm not saying they will, but it feels like they could put an exclamation point and win this thing in any fashion they want to win, 20, 25 points, something like that.
Would it be a mistake for Coach Carlisle to leave Halliburton out for long minutes in game number 6? I think it would. If he's not playing well, you got to sit him. We're going to get into a not dissimilar situation, not due to injury, just based on quality of play, coming up a little bit later on in the show. We'll talk about what's going on with the Edmonton Oilers and their goalie situation and the coaching decisions around switching back and forth. Mm-hmm. But with Tyrese, I think you gotta use them strategically, test those waters slowly. If it turns out he's playing well and that calf is good to go, great, leave him out there. But I wouldn't absolutely run him into the ground, because there's a chance you need him for game 7.
Yeah, if you somehow win, right? Like here's the reality of it. To your point, if you somehow do win and you get to game 7, and it'd be what, in Oklahoma City, you telling me you're going to win back-to-back games without Tyrese Halliburton?
Right.
Like,
and
no.
You don't want to injure that calf anymore. I mean, I think in game number 6, if you can get Tyrese Halliburton to 18 points, that's kind of what you're hoping for. That's your best case scenario. And again, you got to have somebody like Mathurin step up and have another phenomenal game.
So what happened last night, Tolos? The Thunder defeated the Pacers 120-109. As we said, if you just tuned in, Oklahoma City now leads 3-2. Jalen Williams exploded Diesel last night for a career high 40 points, going 14 of 25 from the field, 9 of 12 at the line, and leading Oklahoma City to the edge of a franchise first title. SGA last night, what'd he do? Just a casual 31 for the league MVP, right? Just no big deal. 31, 10, and 4 and 2. 31 points, 10 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals last night. Listen to this, Diesel. The Thunder forced 23 turnovers. You talk about a league where the majority of people nowadays say they can't watch the NBA because there's no defense. The Thunder last night put on a clinic defensively, forced 23 turnovers, and better yet, scored 32 points off of those 23 turnovers, including an 18-4 run in the fourth quarter to kind of seal the deal. We talked about Halliburton 0 for 6 from the field. Pascal Siakam, he did lead the Pacers last night with 28. TJ McConnell, we mentioned, 18 off the bench. Diesel. Historically, teams that go up 3-2 after Game 5 go on to win the finals 82% of the time, favoring Oklahoma City, heading into Game 6. Is Pascal Siakam, is he good enough? And what did I talk about a couple of weeks ago? The other guys, is Pascal Siakam and the other guys of Indiana good enough to go beat Oklahoma City 2 games? I just don't see it.
Well, I mean, you gotta give the Pacers a lot of credit, because it took a run. It took a fourth quarter run from Oklahoma City to put this thing away. They 8.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It was a 2-point ball game, right? Yeah. And there was a disastrous first quarter for Indianapolis, for Indiana. 10-point deficit going into the second quarter of that game, and Oklahoma City just a little better in the second. Indy had a good third quarter. And the fourth quarter, fairly even. Oklahoma City won that one by 3. But it's really that first quarter that changed everything. I mean, you very simply give them the same number of points, and Indiana wins that game by 1. And so Indiana deserves a lot of credit for playing as well as they did, even with their star out.
They do.
Injured.
Listen, I give them credit because, like I've said the entire series, they've surprised me every game. Even when they lose, they're still like, I think Game 1 wasn't really competitive. I think Oklahoma City won and covered the spread. But ever since then, it's been a competitive series. We talk about ratings. I would love to see when it's all said and done, Diesel. I don't think the ratings will be the best ever. But what you have seen is 2 competitive teams. I think you've seen 2 coaches in Rick Carlisle and Mark Daigneault go at it and make good adjustments. And we were kind of critical of Mark Daigneault, in Game 5. In Game 4, right? When Oklahoma City lost and the Indiana Pacers tied the series 2-2. So you're seeing good coaching, but I don't know if, and this is an interesting angle of this conversation, I don't know if you saw consistently year after year, Diesel, teams like Indiana and Oklahoma City make the finals. Would it be enough to really grow the sport back to where it was? I think at some point you do have to have big market teams in play, every few years?
Yeah, I mean, to your point there about the ratings, Game 1 averaged 8.9 million viewers. It was the least watched Game 1 since 1988. Game 2 dipped. You know, the shocking thing there is that Game 2 dipped even after Indiana had that crazy game winner from Halliburton in Game number 1. Game 3 saw the uptick with a 5% boost, but that was still down from last year's finals game number 3 by over 2 million viewers. So it seems as if, Cole, the viewership wants to see Oklahoma City win this thing because after a loss, the ratings fell for Oklahoma City. But after an Oklahoma City win, the ratings jump back up. So we'll have to wait and see what the Game 4 and Game 5 ratings have been like. But ultimately, it's not good, right? You're seeing a pretty marked drop-off from this year compared to last year, about 22, 23% when you look at, the total numbers of viewership, which is not good.
Keep those.
Adam Silver is like, man, we got to figure out a way to get people to tune in.
Keep those ratings pulled up for a second, if you don't mind.
Yep.
I'm looking just to do a side-by-side comparison. I have side-by-side viewership of this year's NBA Finals compared to this year's March Madness in March and April of 2025. Overall tournament average for the March Madness tournament, Diesel, on CBS, TBS, TNT, and True TV, averaged overall tournament 10.2 million viewers, which was a 3% increase from 2024.
That's 10 million viewers per game?
It says overall tournament average. Now, for example, the men's championship game, Florida-Houston, 18.1 million viewers.
Wow.
And that was up 22% from last year. So, look, what are those numbers you just read out? What's the highest?
Game 3, 9.2 million.
That's the highest so far?
9.2 million in Game 3.
So, the
Half.
men's championship game doubled it, right?
Doubled it, yeah.
Final Four.
Wow.
Listen to this. Final Four averaged 16.4, the most watched Final Four since 2017. Elite 8, 9 to 11 million. And in Diesel, here's what's interesting about this. This year's March Madness tournament, didn't we spend all spring talking about how during the tournament, there wasn't a lot of upsets? But guess what? This is what viewers wanted.
It's true.
They saw the best teams. So maybe March Madness has proven that it's better if it's not madness. Maybe it's better if it's the best teams because the ratings were incredible.
Well, you look back over the last 5 seasons, Cole, you go back to 2022 when it was Warriors-Celtics. As big as it gets, right? As many names and stars as it gets. The most viewed game of that series, Game 6, was only 14 million.
Wow, still 4 less than
4 million less than the NCAA tournament finals.
Listen to this, just as we're on this viewership train for a second. Compare that to the most watched NBA Finals game ever. Now, this is a little unfair because in 1998 there was no Roku, there was no YouTube TV, there was no Hulu, but
everybody watched in the same way.
The number's the number,
right?
Bulls Jazz, 1998.
Oh, that's the height of Stockton, Malone, Jordan, Pippen.
35 million viewers.
Woo-hoo. Oh my!
35. 93 Bulls Suns. So you're going talking about the really, really good Suns team back in the 90s. 32 million. Listen to this though.
What's going on in Adam Silver's mind when he's saying we're down
big time
from 33 million? You said 35 million.
Yeah, 35
to 9 million.
And listen, not long ago, Diesel. Here's what's wild: 2016, which was 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. Cavs Warriors. Game 7.
Yep.
32 million. Wow. LeBron, Curry.
In the height of their power,
Yep. And Game 7, 32 million. So Game 7, 2016 was right there with the Bulls and the Jazz. But since 2016, boom. I mean, it plummeted, Diesel.
I would love to know how they're estimating the modern viewership audience, because you should, in theory, be able to measure how many people are tuning into a stream, right? On whatever, across all the streaming platforms,
Prime
whether it's
does
on
for
YouTube TV or Hulu or whatever. People are logging into an app somewhere and watching the game.
Right.
You would think that you would be able to estimate how many people are watching that and then add it to how many people are watching on television.
And combine them all, right?
But then combine them.
It's fascinating, though, that think about this. Last night's game, are last night's numbers out yet or no?
Let me see.
The ones you had pulled up, I'm sorry. Or
no,
just give me one of them.
Not in that one article that I found.
So the one article, it was on average of what, 9 million? Is that what you said?
Let me
I bet
pull
last
that back
night's
up.
aren't out yet. The reason I'm asking is we've gone from 2016 from 32 million viewers.
About 8.9 million if you average the games 1, 2, and 3 together.
So you're talking 32 minus what?
8.9.
24 million. So here's my question. In 9 years, where have 24 million people gone? 24 million, Diesel. Think about it.
Well, they're all pulling a Dewey because Dewey says ratings are down because no one cares about the NBA Finals. The NBA is garbage.
But do you realize how many people 24 million people is?
It's a lot.
From 2016.
More people have left than currently watch.
I mean, that is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
24 million people in 9 years have all of a sudden said, nah, I'm not watching the finals.
And yet they keep putting more and more and more behind paywalls, finding ways to charge you extra. The viewership numbers are going away, yet they're scrounging and scrambling for ways to make money off of the very few dedicated fans who are still watching the sport.
That is alarming if you're Adam Silver. I mean, how do you explain that, Diesel? 24 million less viewers today than you had in 2016 in the same games. That's awful. That is terrible for the NBA.
That is roughly the population of South Korea.
So maybe South Korea stopped watching the NBA, right? Is that what it was?
I guess so.
Oh.
When we come back, Cole, another sport that Dewey hates, but dang it, we're going to talk about it anyway. Big changes coming to the PGA Tour after next season. How could we see the sport adjusting, pivoting, changing, trying to get a bigger and better audience? We'll talk about it next on the Fan Upstate. anytime there's change in a major sport, Cole, it gives some people reason to be a little bit nervous, and others a good reason to rejoice. What kind of major changes are coming to the PGA Tour once Jay Monahan officially steps down at the end of his contract in 2026? That news was made public earlier today. No extension for Jay Monahan, a guy that oversaw a tremendous amount of change and tumultuous times between the PGA and LIV and the split and some of the biggest stars leaving to go to a foreign-backed tour. And the new guy coming in, CEO Brian Rolapp, who previously worked with the NFL and oversaw some of its recent modernizing changes. What could that mean for the game of golf? It's Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. And you, Tolos, the 80 of you right now who are watching on the stream, we appreciate you. Jump in. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube is where you can search for The Fan Upstate. Hit that like button, the follow button, the subscribe button, whatever platform it is you're on, and jump into the stream. Start chopping it up with Tiger Stripes Media, with T Swizzle, and the other Tolos who are watching, Cole. Yep. Jay Monahan. A lot of golfers and a lot of PGA fans felt extremely betrayed by Jay Monahan after he took a hardline stance, banned all of these big names, the pro golfers that left the PGA for LIV, banned them, and then seemingly stabbed the people who had gone to bat for him for the last couple of months and years in the back by cutting a deal.
I sure am glad you leaving.
Is that how people feel? Is that what you're saying? Look, Kim Mulkey.
Yeah.
Look, number one, from what I've seen on social media today, it doesn't really look like people are upset about this. Number two, now that we're talking golf, the video that you and I took earlier is the most important golf conversation. Is it, by the way,
hottest golf content sweeping the nation?
We're going to post that on our socials, right?
Yes, we are.
Just so you Tolos out there have a little sneak peek, little preview, Diesel and I tried to make the 4.5 foot putt in the hallway before the show started.
Yeah.
We didn't make it.
No, we didn't.
Charlie James tried too.
Turns out 65 feet is a real long way.
I came close.
Real long way.
What, 2 inches, 3 inches away? But look out for that. Be on the lookout for that on our social medias at the Fan Upstate. It was the elements as well.
We couldn't recreate the left to right movement of the course, but we could recreate the rain in the golfers' faces. And Cole was spraying me in the face with a spray bottle while I'm trying to make this putt, just like in the eyes. Oh, and you just swing it. Like I didn't come close.
That's gonna be a promo.
Yeah.
What?
God,
I don't know. I
walked right into that one.
I don't know how in the world we can ever replicate that again.
Recreate the rain.
Wait a minute.
And Cole was spraying me in the face with a spray bottle.
That right there. That's it. That's all I want right there.
And Cole was spraying me in the face with a spray bottle.
I don't know why that's as funny as it is.
T Swizzle asks, are either of y'all decent at golf? Curious. He goes, I'm decent, not the best, not the worst. Just wondering what y'all think y'all would shoot at Oakmont.
T Swizzle, I don't play.
T Swizzle, I feel like I'd be lucky to shoot my weight at Oakmont. Honestly, if it's that hard of a course, if we're playing from the tips, right, playing from the same place that the pros are playing from in the U.S. Open, I'd very easily triple digits.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not great. I mean, I average around 90. So I'd be willing to bet that playing a hard course from the tips adds minimum 35 strokes to my game. Like if it's that hard for the pros,
yeah,
it's going to add 35, 40 to mine at least.
And I don't play T-Swizzle. I don't. If you know a golf instructor.
He drives a golf cart.
I will drive the golf cart. If you know a golf instructor that wants some publicity, and trying to teach me how, let me know.
Cole is our honorary cart girl.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it. But it would be it'd be tough, especially if you have the elements.
And Cole was spraying me in the face with a spray bottle.
I don't know why that's so funny. But it is.
Tolos, don't hit on Cole. He has a girlfriend. Don't hit on Cole. You don't hit on the cart girl. That's rule number 1 of golf. Everyone breaks it.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do it, but everybody hits on the cart girl, and you shouldn't do that. So yeah, again, back to the story of
We got derailed. I'm sorry.
Jay Monahan.
That's my fault.
Jay Monahan. The live golf thing. Banned the players like Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, and Brooks Koepka took that hardline stance and say players couldn't play both tours. And then they had their merger where they're not merger because that's still up in the air, but they had their agreement that, okay, now the live guys can come back and play in the majors because, like you were saying yesterday, you need star power in these majors, and it created the immediate intrigue of how can the live players come back and play in the majors when it's a different format from what they're playing, from harder courses from what they're playing on the live tour. A lot of golfers, especially Rory, felt like they got stabbed in the back by this guy. So who are they going to? Oh, he was also instrumental in creating the elevated events or the signature events that now feature larger and larger purses.
And he had to
limited
navigate
fields.
COVID a little bit. I mean, that was
He didn't have an easy run,
Right.
He had some challenges that he had to deal with. So who is this guy?
surely it's a golf guy, right? Surely
It is not. It is a football guy. So we got this guy not sure, and he's going to fix everything. They bring in Brian Rolap, the CEO, to be the new CEO of golf. He's the former chief media and business officer for the NFL.
Yeah, I've seen him on TV, like NFL stuff.
Yeah. People are suggesting that this is going to bring a shift towards a more polished, profitable, and streamlined version of professional golf. Yeah, because the PGA Tour is known for being loose and free, right?
I really can't wrap my head around if it's good or bad this early. I will say his resume is impressive, even though he's an NFL guy. He's been in the NFL media world for 22 years.
Yeah.
So you talk about leading negotiations with Amazon, CBS, ESPN, ABC, Fox.
Bingo.
NBC, Diesel.
You just hit the nail on the head.
That's why
did they hire this guy?
Yeah.
Because he has big-time contacts, and he can put together deals with major networks.
Billion dollar
Billions of dollars. So the PGA is already making money hand over fist, but look for events now to be broadcast live on Netflix, on Apple, on Amazon, whoever else they may be a part of. Some of the traditional TV networks, Cole, that we all know are hemorrhaging cash, that don't have the money like they used to. They put all their money into their live sports packages, but can they compete with these major streaming juggernauts? I'd say we're probably looking at golf going away from broadcast television and making its way over to streaming.
Did you see What's Up Jersey Joe, who joins the Facebook stream and says, hello, boys, listening/watching here at Winds Resort at Ocean Isle Beach in North Carolina.
Wow,
appreciate that.
Look at you.
Yeah, rub it in.
God.
Rub it in. I'm a little bit jealous, Joe. Jersey Joe, appreciate you, man. Did you see, though, who kind of appointed him, who recommended him?
I did not. Was it Roger?
No, no, believe it or not. 3 people, Diesel, 3 people made a board committee, and those 3 people were Jay Monahan, the PGA Tour commissioner from 2017.
The outgoing guy.
Yep. Tiger Woods.
Okay.
I think you've heard his name before.
Yeah.
And Adam Scott, who I think we just talked about Adam Scott yesterday.
Yeah, could have just won his second major at the U.S. Open at 45.
One of the most respected players, consistent on tour. He's a player director of the PGA Tour Policy Board. He's been a big advocate of golf. So those 3 recommended Brian, and here we are. If you get a recommendation, Diesel, or an endorsement from Tiger Woods, I guess you get the job.
Yeah, I guess they believe he's going to bring some money to the table.
Yeah.
Again, that's his primary role, is to come in and bring some money. So, I mean, what are we going to see? Are we going to see bigger production, more fireworks? Are we going to see
I like
Hank
fireworks.
Williams Jr. doing a new theme song for golf, right? Are we going to have that now every time we tune in? Oh, you ready for some golf?
I prefer Carrie Underwood. Or
That's
was
fine.
it Carrie? I think it was Carrie. on the Monday Night Football.
That says a lot about you, Cole.
Yeah, it does.
To be honest, that you like Carrie Underwood more than Hank.
Well, I didn't say I
Taylor.
liked her. I just it's a better view.
You like looking at her.
I mean, come on. You want to look at some old guy or Carrie Underwood, huh?
I mean, he's royalty. Hank Jr. is country royalty.
You're right. Corn Chip says, my buddy's family got our golf outing set up 2 weeks ago. The cart girl was not the cart girl was not one any of us would hit on. I need to know more on that.
Well, that's on the golf course.
I was going to say, what kind of golf course?
I mean, Title IX, I guess.
I want to see a description of this lady.
Who's doing the hiring over there? Let's get them fired, okay? Because if you don't have a cute cart girl, you got nothing.
Was she too fitty?
Oh.
You think so? Are we going there?
If anybody asks me how far I hit my driver, Cole, the answer is tree fitty. I hit it into the trees. That's where I hit it.
I was just curious. Now Corn Chip's got me interested here. Maybe I don't want to get into golf.
T-Swizzle's no Bo Cephas. Come on, Cole.
Sorry, man. I can't. I don't know. I'm going to quit making fun of people like that.
We'll see what happens with a players union. There's possibilities. There's talk about, institutionalizing player power, giving them more authority.
God, I hope not.
In a way that's similar to the NFLPA.
They already have all the players They don't have to do media interviews. They don't have to play. They don't have to do anything they want. The players have it made.
So are we taking this backwards a little bit from Monahan that started requiring golfers to attend X number of events on tour every year?
I don't know.
You can't do this thing where you show up for the 4 majors and maybe like 3 or 4 events for the rest of the season. Now, whatever it is, I think it's like 25 out of 35 events you're required to be at.
But what about also media availability? Golfers on the PGA have never been required to attend media availability. That's why that audio we played yesterday with Rory Diesel, with him, he was being asked, hey, why hadn't you showed up to any media availability? And he said, plain and clear, because of you guys. Like they're soft. A lot of these golfers are soft. They can't answer questions. Now, to be fair, I did see one golfer say, look, I think it might have been Scotty. I can't remember who it was, said recently when it comes to the PGA and their media. He said, it's not that we have a problem meeting with media. He said it's that the problem is as soon as we come off of the golf course, that's when the media availability is. Mm-hmm. He said there's got to be some kind of cool down period, just like in NBA or the MLB or whatever. There's no cool down period, so a lot of them aren't required, or none of them are required, Diesel, to meet with the media. I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves is I think they should be. However, I do agree with Scotty. There should be a cool down period. You shouldn't have to meet with the media right after you double bogey, hole 18. But that's one of my pet peeves.
So they're looking at a couple of other directives that the new CEO of golf might target, Cole. And I want to know if any of these seem like they might get you more interested in golf. I know you watch the majors. You don't really watch anything other than the majors. There's a possibility that he may test shorter TV-friendly formats, particularly for younger audiences. So for the ADHD generation who can't pay attention for more than an hour or really 10 seconds, they're going to try to figure out ways to make content for them.
Yeah.
I think it's a smart idea there. I don't know how exactly they're going to try to pull that off. Maybe in the middle of another broadcast, they just pop in, 60 seconds of Bryson DeChambeau playing golf, like a YouTube clip or something like that. Maybe they'll try to do that. There's also possibilities that they may try to shift the time blocks for final rounds to make them a little closer to prime time. How they're going to achieve that one, what that one actually means, that one is a little confusing to me because, the sun goes down when the sun goes down.
Yeah.
And rounds are scheduled. Most of the time, they finish up right at dusk when that's going on. Also, Cole, here's the big one. A soft merger with LIV that may set up LIV events to become part of the PGA Tour calendar or even an off-season circuit.
Wow.
So when we're in wintertime here, LIV golf is being played somewhere where it's really warm, and we'll have golf year-round.
Like on the equator, where it deserves to be, right? Put them down there where it's warm, where it's hot, where it's on fire. Speaking of on fire, the Braves, can they ever get to that point? They won 2 of 3, had an off day yesterday. Strider and Acuna are starting to look like they're doing their job. What else do the Braves need? We'll talk about it next. Well, Diesel, the Atlanta Braves did win 2 of 3, so there is a little bit of positivity. And if you saw what Spencer Strider did over the weekend, you say, okay, I know it's late, it's late in the year to get going, but if you saw what Spencer Strider did, and you saw what Acuna's doing, batting like .640 in 1 week, NL National League Player of the Week. If you see those two who just returned from injury not long ago, you see them doing what they're doing, Diesel, you just think as a Braves fan, I'm negative enough. I'm not going to be negative in this segment, so Madcraft will be happy about that. But if you see those positive signs, you just think, man, only if a few other guys would get going, this team would be really good.
Yeah, the hope, I guess, is that Acuna's back. He's hitting well. He's a spark of positivity. All of a sudden, Austin Riley, he upticks just a little bit. Albies starts hitting just a little bit better. And then all of a sudden, you're in a position where you're winning more games than you're losing. And you slowly creep back up above 500.
And will that happen? We don't know. But you look at what those two players in particular are doing, it does give you a little bit of, I don't want to say as a Braves fan, it makes me think we can still salvage the season because the Braves are 10-plus games back in the division. However, Diesel, you are trying somehow, some way at this point to put together a wild card run and do what other teams in the past have done. We've talked about it many times, right? That the division leaders aren't always set up the best. If you're the Braves, you're hoping that you can, from now until the end of the season, even post-All-Star break, which is next month, put together a miraculous ending just to make a push for the wild card. Because if the Braves got healthy, if the Braves stayed healthy, if they started playing well, if the batter started hitting that white ball that comes down from the pitcher, this team has potential. We've known that all along, but the race to a wild card, when you're 10-plus games back and it's the middle of June, almost the end of June, it's definitely easier said than done, right?
Well, they got 6 weeks to figure it out. And
is that till the All-Star?
To the trade deadline.
Trade deadline.
Gotcha. July 31st.
Gotcha.
They got 6 weeks to get there. They need to go out there and they got to find themselves some pitching. That's what it is. It's pitching. Yeah. If they can get better on the mound, if they can get a starter and a solid, middle reliever or a closer, I think this team could start taking 2 out of 3 more often than they don't.
Hadn't had a lot of that this year. 2 out of 3.
No, we
What
haven't.
is that? Oh, you mean wins?
Wins.
Wins. Hadn't had much of that this year.
One more, and that's called a winning streak.
I'll take it.
Happened
but bad
before.
news, Diesel. New York Mets are in town tonight.
Yeah, they're a good team.
Real good team.
They're a real good team. When we come back, Cole, let's briefly touch on the NHL Finals, and I want to ask you, is the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers making the same mistake that Mark Daigneault, the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, made in games 1 and 3? Cole, I was highly critical of Mark Daigneault, head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder's strategies in game 1 and 3, which seemed like he was running his stars and running his veterans, so to speak, into the ground by giving them too much playing time, trusting them a little too much over spreading it around. And I wonder, Cole, if the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, Kris Knoblauch, whose team is currently down and facing elimination tonight, if he's not making the exact same mistake in goal. One of the most important things about hockey is stopping the other team from scoring, right? I mean, Edmonton has been a team that has outscored teams all season long, and they haven't really put a tremendous amount of emphasis on keeping the other team down to 1 or 2 goals. But it got to the point earlier in this Stanley Cup Final Series, Cole, that they had no choice but to pull their season-long goalie, Stuart Skinner, because he was terrible in games 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they went to the slightly less experienced goalie in the second half in the later stages of games 3 and 4, and for the entirety of game number 5. And it came back and bit them in the ass. And now it seems like he's making the decision to go back to the guy that was giving up huge goal numbers earlier in this series.
I think just off the top of my head here, not exactly remembering because I don't watch a ton of hockey. Didn't the Hurricanes do something similar in the Eastern Conference Finals? Where
they did.
They pulled their goalie first game, second game. Like it is a little surprising to me, Diesel, when you get to the NHL Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, or the NBA Finals, or the World Series, whatever it may be. And in hockey, you rely on your goalie so heavily. Like, it's probably the most important position, maybe like a pitcher, right, on the baseball diamond. And to get all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and then pull them. Yeah. Or to, even in the Hurricanes case, to get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals and then pull them, it is a little surprising to me.
Yeah, Oilers and Skinner, the guy that was the goalie that I was talking about, Skinner gave up the team has given up 3, 5, 6, 4, and 5 goals in their 6 games thus far in the Stanley Cup Finals. They replaced Skinner with Picard in games 3 and 4. Now, Skinner played the majority of those games. They pulled him and they replaced him with Picard. Picard gave up 1 goal in each of those games and then gave up 4 goals in game number 5. So it really puts Coach Kris Knoblauch in a tough spot. What do? Do you go back to the guy that got you here but struggled through the first part of this series, or do you ride with the goalie that played well late in games 3 and 4 but then gave up 4 goals in game 5? Yeah. They're really in a tough spot here.
To me, it goes back to what I said with Oklahoma City a couple of days ago when you asked the question about, okay, you went down, or I believe it was when Indiana tied the series 2-2. To me, Diesel, it's about, and again, I'm not saying players can't step up, but trust in what got you there. Trust in how you made it that far. I go back to what I just said. You made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. If I'm a coach, I would try my absolute darndest, Diesel, to trust what got me there. And if that's a little bit of a risk, maybe so. I'm not saying that you can't have another goalie on the team that's just as effective, and I'm not saying players don't play bad. It happens. But I am gonna, option one, I'm gonna try to trust the guys that got me there.
Yeah, I mean, this, like I said, this is not a team that plays elite, that has elite goaltending, right? Both of these goalies give up a lot of goals. They lean on Connor McDavid, on Draisaitl and Bouchard to really be physical down the ice, to put their opponents in positions where they commit penalties. Oilers get themselves into situations where they're on the power play. That's what the Oilers are built on. They're not built on a guy that's only going to give up 1 or 2 goals a game. So it's just they put themselves in a really tough spot. And I think, Cole, this decision, this move, I think it's a little scared. I think it's a little scared because I think Kris Knoblauch is setting it up so that he has some form of fallibility or he has some sort of justification. If they lose this series and you go back to Skinner, the goalie that got you here, right? And he's a veteran. He's been around this league for a long time. Then you say, oh, well, we had all this data. All this data said that, this is the guy that got us here. He's good for giving up no more than 3 to 4 games, 3 to 4 goals a game. Obviously, this series has been really tough because the Florida Panthers are really good at scoring. But if we lose with our stars in the game, then there's some justifiability for that decision making. If they go to the less tested goalie who played better in games 3 and 4 and still lost the game badly, then you're answering a lot of questions and maybe setting yourself up for a firing.
I want to get to some statistics on the NHL in a second, the Stanley Cup Finals. JD on the YouTube stream says the issue is if he is already overusing his players, that will be an even harder habit to break when facing elimination, if that makes sense. You understand what he's saying? I'm trying to understand that. If he's already overusing his players, it'll be even a harder habit to break when he faces elimination.
Maybe he's talking about just doubling down on what you think you know, right? You're doubling down on what you think got you here. Now, maybe this is the best thing, right? Maybe Skinner just needed some time away to get his head back on, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe he needed some time to sit back and watch and analyze rather than reacting because he's clearly not seeing the puck well on the ice. Maybe he needed to be pulled to get to sort of snap out of it.
A couple of weeks ago, Diesel, when you were on vacation, I did a quick poll it's like 4:00 in the 4:00 hour, and I want to do the same thing here because Rob Brown talks a lot of hockey. I genuinely, I've watched more hockey this postseason than I thought I would, especially when the Braves were stinking as bad as they were. Like I think I watched 2 or 3 hockey games during the Hurricanes series in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Especially if it's on TV somewhere. But we did this in the first segment talking about the NBA, and I ran the same numbers for the NHL. And I want to know from the Tolos out there at 844-326-3663, when you talk about these big storylines in the NHL, how many of you Tolos have tuned in and are going to tune in? Is it tonight? Is that right? Game 5, 6 tonight?
We should be moving on to game, number 6. Game 6 is tonight. Florida leads the series 3-2. This is it. This is an elimination game.
Yeah.
Florida has their home ice.
And I think
Oilers
they win
are on the road.
Right? I really do. But, Diesel, it's interesting to look at this. Going back to the conversation we had in the very first segment about pulling the plug, like the cable versus broadcast gap, how it affects March Madness, how it affects the NBA. If you did not hear that segment, if you just tuned in, I've clipped that ratings conversation that Diesel and I had. It is alarming how big of a drop-off there's been in the NBA. You can find it on our social medias at The Fan Upstate. I just posted it during the last commercial break. It's about a 3 to 4 minute conversation about ratings, but if you missed it, it's really intriguing talking about 24 million people not watching compared to 2016. But Diesel, when it comes to TNT and True TV, those are the 2 channels that this year's NHL Stanley Cup Finals have been on. 2.42 million viewers game 1, 2.5 game 2, 2.3. So it's averaging about 2.3, 2.4, something like that. But why? And again, I'm not a hockey guy, so I'm asking you to see if you know this. Why last year to this year do you think there was a decline? Game 1 this year, Diesel, down 22%. Game 2 down 30%. Listen to this. Game 3, the least watched Game 3 since 2012. What would cause? Is it the matchups?
And you would think, Cole, that this being a matchup of the two teams that made the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and two teams that are loaded with stars, this sort of flies in the face of the logic of why people aren't watching the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, these are two really good teams. It's a rematch. You would think. Now, I mean, look, hockey in America, outside of the northern cities, outside of Boston, Chicago, states of Minnesota and Wisconsin, and obviously on up once you get into Canada, those fans are going to watch. They're diehards no matter what. Yeah. But a vast majority of this country, they're very casual at best hockey fans, and that turns hockey into a very regional sport. I mean, we were interested in the Stanley Cup playoffs, trying to stay along and follow along with the Hurricanes. But once they got eliminated, it makes it tougher to care. I get it. It does make it tougher to care.
So tell me if I'm wrong here. This was a quick Google search. Last year, Diesel 2024 Stanley Cup was also Panthers-Oilers.
Correct.
And it's a rematch. But here's what I don't understand. Same teams last year. 2024 on ABC, Game 7 reached a massive 7.7 million viewer across the 7.7 million viewers, U.S. viewers, in Game 7. It's the same teams. That's weird to me.
Well, look, we got a texter who says no one cares about hockey here. What do you care about right now? That's a really good question. There's not a whole lot of live sports going on right now, and it's going to get worse over the course of the summer, right? NBA Finals are coming to a close.
College World Series
is on, but and we have Coastal here in the state. Too. But
this weekend it's over.
It's coming to a close. Hockey's coming to a close. Golf has got one major left, and then the PGA Tour just kind of peters out from there.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you care about right now? If you care about sports, you're listening to the Fan Upstate because you care about sports. What do you care about right now?
I guess it's football season already, right? I mean,
and then we had a guest. I think it was Chris Phillips who said we've talked less actual football this offseason than we've ever talked because we're talking about the changes coming to college football.
We are going to talk a little at 5 o'clock, Tolos, just a quick tease, 5 p.m. We will talk a little college football to do with the number 9. So maybe that's – and again, you and I have already started shifting and talking college football. But what I don't understand is the ratings thing. If you're watching the same teams, a 30% decrease, like what is different about this year? I mean, I have no idea.
Texter says, is it because no one has True TV because everyone streams now? I mean, if you have True TV though, if you pay, it's probably bundled with TNT, right? They bundle all their stuff together.
See, maybe so. Maybe that's what it is. That's just that I can't wrap my head around that. I can't figure that out. A 30% drop, and it's the same teams. That is. That maybe we're just maybe we're making so much of these ratings, and it truly does have to do with the amount of people that have just left and pulled the plug and went streaming, and that play, maybe that just plays so much into it. JD says maybe the decrease is because it's the same teams. I don't know.
But people say in the NBA they want to see the best of the best, and they want to see these mega market teams going after each other. Right?
I know it's weird. Nobody really can figure out. I don't think ratings can be figured out. Yeah. Speaking of the best, let's go to the phone lines. Dewey at 844-326-3663. What's up, Dewey?
Yes, I got a couple of things. First of all, to follow up on the NBA thing, no one cares about the NBA, and I'll tell you why. It's because people are tired of these players' behavior. They act like children. They whine. No one cares about their politics. No one cares about LeBron James and his little kid no more. No one cares about – they're just tired of it. They want to watch basketball, and they don't want to hear these players brandishing guns and all this and being criminals.
So, Dewey, who have you heard whining so far through the NBA playoffs? With the teams that are in the NBA playoffs, what players what players have had terrible behavior that's driving viewership away?
Well, right now, none. The damage is already done.
Oh, okay.
All the winners are gone. LeBron's gone. Luka Doncic is gone. All of them are gone. But right now you got Indiana. No one knows who Indiana is. And Oklahoma City, they're emerging.
So it's LeBron's fault. It's LeBron's fault that nobody's watching.
Oh, he's part of the problem. He's part of the problem. And at hockey ratings are going down because people are figuring out that hockey's fake with all the fights.
And you're part of the problem.
Staged.
Dewey, let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question, Dewey?
Yes.
You said no one cares about Indiana. Can you tell me where Indiana is on a map? What states border Indiana? Do you know where Indiana is?
It's in the Midwest. It's near Illinois and Kentucky.
Okay.
It does border Illinois.
It does, and it's not far from Kentucky. It does border Kentucky as well. I thought when he said Midwest, he was going to be too far west, but he's right on the Illinois. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Where is Oklahoma on a map, Dewey?
That's near Texas.
That's good.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Which direction is it from Texas?
South.
Wrong.
Opposite.
It's north of Texas. Oklahoma's north of Texas.
North, south, same thing.
The same thing.
Anyway,
Dewey's better with geography than I thought he was. Anything else, Dewey?
I got to push back on you about Spencer Strider. Do you know who Spencer Strider? Two things about Strider. They played the Rockies. That's enough said about that. They played the Rockies, and what's his name? The guy with the long hair. He struck out 15 people.
Grant Holmes.
I guess now he's going to win the Cy Young Award too now because he struck out 15 terrible players that somehow managed to come back and beat them 10-1.
Grant Holmes was good.
He was okay, but he won't do that again no more this year.
Used up all of his good Kenny Powers energy and hair products?
Chris Sale might.
Okay.
But the rest of them, and Strider's still suspect. But bullpen, they need a bullpen overhaul, and they just need to overhaul the whole team, get rid of everyone.
So what you're saying is the Braves suck.
They still suck, but hopefully by the All-Star game, they can get to 500 and be halfway respectable.
So, Dewey, let me get this right. From your perspective, the NBA sucks. The Braves suck. NHL sucks. What else sucks in the mind of Dewey?
Well, wrestling sucks, too.
Wrestling
Y'all
sucks?
should talk about wrestling.
No.
Okay.
Y'all need to be fired.
What do you think about the College World Series? Is it good?
It's actually halfway decent with Coastal Carolina doing their
Yeah,
thing.
we
They
found
won
the one thing he
25
likes.
We got it. We packed them.
He likes chocolate milk and Coastal Carolina.
We've got Pop-Tarts.
Oreos, too.
Oreos. Thanks,
Thank you, Dewey.
God, all-time classic right there. Where's Madcraft been, by the way? Has anybody seen, it's been like 2 or 3 days. Did we make him mad
Licking
again
his
or
wounds,
upset him?
I guess.
We do have, not to be rude, I shouldn't say this, but we do have some pretty sensitive Tolos out there. Did we upset Madcraft? We hadn't heard the Madcraft theme. We hadn't heard Madcraft. I don't know
He's
where
not
he's
busy
been.
watching Miami baseball, that's for sure.
It's time for Wire to Wire with friends Diesel and Cole. This sports show on the radio, talking Tiger Bulls and Rooster Grove, wanting to know. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole. It's the best sports show on the radio. We're talking Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole.
It's been a while since we've heard that, right?
know.
It hadn't heard, JD says he's on vacation, he thinks.
Oh.
Can't Tolo on vacation. Do want to shout out.
Actually, you can with the free Odyssey app.
That's what I'm saying. Wesley Roberts does it, and he's in Puerto Rico. Shout out to Leprechaun of Lyman. He says on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, "Man, I've missed you guys. Work and life have kept me away from my fan family. Good to be Toloing again at Leprechaun of
as he
Lyman."
says.
That's a pretty good one. That was pretty good. I like that. That's pretty good. Speaking of pretty good, Diesel, do you know who was pretty good yesterday? I don't know if pretty good fits the mold, but you and I, yesterday on that Monday, watched Gage Wood put on a masterclass. I'm in an absolute masterclass. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk College World Series, and especially Arkansas, what happened with Gage Wood. Only the third time in history ever. That's next. Well, yesterday we saw history on our two very large TV screens here in the Fan Upstate Studios. Diesel, as you and I were on the air yesterday following along with Arkansas and Murray State. It was a 3-0 game that led to a no-hitter and almost a perfect game from Gage Wood, only the third time in the history of the College World Series. And to join us on the show right now, we bring on Kevin Bohannon. He is a member of the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association, also writes for 247 Sports, covers Arkansas, and his eyes are heavy on the College World Series this week and weekend. Kevin, we appreciate you taking time to hop on with us on this Tuesday afternoon. Gage Wood will go down as the best Arkansas baseball player ever. Tell me if that's far-fetched or if it might have a little bit of weight to it.
He will go down as the pitcher who had the most outstanding performance in Razorback baseball history. No matter if you go look back, any pitcher, and that includes Hagen Smith striking out 17 at Globe Life against Oregon State last year. So there's been so many pitchers that have gone through the Razorback program, and, I mean, first-round draft pick, second. Matt Hobbs has had 23 drafted since he's been there since 2019. So the performance itself, the best in Razorback history. And it was a little personal for me, even though I write for the Razorback, or write for 24/7 Sports covering the Razorbacks. I coached Gage Wood in showcase ball. I've known him since he was 10 years old, and to watch what he did yesterday was a long time coming.
Kevin, what was that decision-making process like, do you think, for Dave Van Horn in deciding to leave Gage out there in late innings? It's certainly a gamble, pitching tends to diminish as you get through a game, deep into the games. And he had the no-hitter going on, but the analytics would say you got to pull him, you got to put somebody fresh out there. So put us in the mind of Dave Van Horn as this performance kept going on into later and later innings.
Yeah, the best thing about Coach Dave Van Horn is he lets his assistants coach. So Matt Hobbs takes care of the pitching staff. Matt Thompson, Bobby Wernes handles the hitters, and Dave is more of the CEO. So Coach Hobbs kept checking on Gage, and he went up to him in the 8th inning and said, "How are you feeling? Be honest." Because Gage had never gone over 90 pitches. That was against Creighton in the regional at Fayetteville. That was the longest he had gone. That was 6 innings, 13 strikeouts. He looked really good. He only threw 48 pitches against Tennessee, so going over 100 was really not even thought of. And I know they were hoping to get him into the 6th inning. That would have been ideal. But he just kept getting stronger. And when he ended the 7th inning, when he struck out Jonathan Hogart, it was on a 98-mile-per-hour fastball. His last fastball of the game was at 97, so he just kept getting stronger. And that goes back to his work ethic and how he has taken care of himself over the last couple of years. And remember, Gage missed 2.5 months, so he is really in mid-season form right now. So for him to go out there and do what he did, it was unexpected, but not out of the realm of possibility.
We're joined right now by Kevin Bohannon of 247 Sports. I knew, Kevin, that you covered Arkansas, but until you just dropped that news flash on us, I did not know that you coached Gage. So we can give you a little bit of credit for yesterday's performance, right? But also, all kidding aside, when you look at the guy himself in Gage Wood, Diesel and I were sitting here yesterday watching, and on the TV broadcast, they just zoomed in on his face. And I remember one particular play where the Murray State batter called time
out.
Yeah, and stepped out, and it was like laser focus. He was like teed off a little bit that he called timeout. What in your mind makes Gage Wood just so impressive as we saw yesterday?
He always pitches with a chip on his shoulder. Now, one of the things that he had to harness over the last couple of years was his emotions. Gage pitches with a ton of emotions. He's an emotional kid, but he's the most competitive kid that I've ever been around, and that includes Caden Wallace, Jackson Wiggins, some former Razorbacks that are going to be playing professional baseball for a while. Casey Martin's another one. Jordan Wicks, who is in the Cubs organization. Gage is up there with Jordan in terms of his competitive factor. Gage was committed to Kansas State up until July 14th of 2021. Arkansas made a courtesy offer during that time, but after his junior high school season, Gage really took off. The velocity went up. He really started to care about his weight training, his meal intake, and everything, and it really transformed him into the pitcher that we saw yesterday on the mound. So Arkansas came knocking. It was one of the toughest things he ever had to do was decommit from Kansas State. So he came to Arkansas with a little fanfare, but not much. But if you were watching the development and everything over the past couple of years, it was leading up to a moment like that yesterday.
Talking to Kevin Bohannon, writes for 24/7 Sports and 103.7 The Buzz. At Cabo Baseball Guru is where you can find him on Twitter. As amazing as that performance was, how do you think Gage is handling, or does he even think about the fact that he was, I'm talking a shoestring away from a perfect game, which has never happened in the College World Series. Only the third ever no-hitter, but he was that close to a perfect game. Is he the kind of player that will dwell on that, or does that even cross his mind?
Yeah, that was the first thing you mentioned in post-game interviews, and the text message I got from him yesterday, going back and forth, is I can't believe I hit the guy. But for him to he put that aside after he figured out, okay, this is the first time I'm pitching in the stretch. I can accomplish something that nobody has done in 65 years. I'm not sure he knew when the last no-hitter was, but I know he knows it hadn't been in a long time. So he knew what kind of streak he was on at that point, mowing people down. Ty Floyd had the most strikeouts with 17 a few years ago for LSU, and he just kept racking them up. So he knew that he wasn't pitching out of the stretch much, and he just kept going on to the next pitch. And when he got to the ninth inning and hit the first batter, and Ryder Helfert called it right away. To me, that was a 50-50 call. The guy kind of turned into it at the last moment, but he could have been given the benefit of the doubt that even if he hadn't chicken winged it, he was going to get hit.
Yeah.
So that really set him up for the second and third out of the inning. Couldn't rely on his curveball very much because he really kind of lost feel at that moment. So he was just throwing as hard as he can, saying, okay, here, come get it. And he showed his best stuff right there at the end.
You mentioned, Kevin, his post-game interview. In that interview, he kind of got emotional a little bit when talking about Coach Van Horn and what this group was trying to accomplish for him. Having lost already, what do you think the performance yesterday from Gage Wood does to the rest of this team?
It really resets everything in terms of pitching, especially after UCLA used 8 pitchers against LSU and had to play 6 innings, call it 5.5, but that's 6 innings of baseball today. So they've already played 2/3 of a game. Yeah. Arkansas has 2 pitchers that aren't available today. That's Gage Wood and Gabe Gackle. Gackle, of course, through 6 innings against LSU on Saturday. So those are the only 2 that aren't available today. They're going to start Zach Root. That surprised me a little bit because Arkansas has to play the balancing game at this point. You have to have all hands on deck, but you also have to look ahead and kind of manage expectations should you win. So it's kind of a 60-40 split in terms of, okay, we have to do everything we have to do to win this one so we can get to tomorrow, but we want to have something left for tomorrow as well. So they're going with Zach Root. That's a redemption game for him. Now, Arkansas's offense is going to have to pick it up because odds are there's not going to be another no-hitter. I don't care how many pitchers Arkansas throws out there. It took 65 years for the third one to happen. I don't think the fourth one's going to happen on the next day. So the offense better get their head out of their rear end and figure out how to hit line drives instead of trying to hit home runs.
So, Kevin, take us into the mind of the Arkansas fan base. Where does baseball rank? Yeah, I know that might be a scary thought. Where does baseball rank in the hierarchy of Arkansas sports? Because, even though football has kind of struggled the last couple of years, football is still king, and that's true of just about every major college in the South. John Calipari's on campus, took him to the Sweet 16 this year. Obviously, we're watching what's happening live with Arkansas baseball. How do you kind of balance those three, or are they pretty close to one another?
Football is, like you said, football is always going to be king because that's the major money maker for the university as far as donors, NIL, any type of money that's coming in now. However many channels you have it flowing through, that's still going to bring in the most money. Basketball and baseball have really been kind of neck and neck over the last 8 years because since 2017, Arkansas has been the winningest college baseball program in America in terms of number of wins. So that's attracted more fans. And one of the reasons that I moved to the media side of things was because high school baseball in Arkansas and college baseball, for that matter, at the lower levels, was not getting enough attention. It was not being put on a level that some of the SEC counterparts have. So that was the mission from mine from the start. I started on the radio, and it turned into a segment. Now I'm running for 24/7 Sports. Trey Biddy does a great job with hogsports.com. So, baseball is right there. Calipari reinvigorated the basketball fan base because they hadn't had anything like that. Eric Musselman was good, but he was really kind of a rent-a-coach in my opinion because he was always that guy looking for the next job, looking for a way out. Even though Calipari's at the end of his tenure right here, he and Dave Van Horn are really kind of at the same level as far as where they're at in their career. So they're trying to get one before they get out the door. There were some rumors that Dave Van Horn may be hanging it up after this year because of the revenue sharing, and it's hard to do a roster every year, but I really don't see that happen. I think he's still got 4 or 5 years. So, basketball and baseball, in my opinion, are right there neck and neck.
Quick update for those driving in the upstate of South Carolina. Louisville leads Oregon State 4-2, top of the 6th inning in the College World Series, as Kevin Bohannon, who joins us right now, alluded to a minute ago. The game tonight, 7 o'clock, UCLA and Arkansas. Elimination game. Arkansas, a pretty heavy favorite, Kevin, according to Vegas, minus 500. You mentioned the fact that UCLA just played this morning. That game last night, obviously suspended due to weather. But when you look at, besides the pitching matchup that you talked about, when you look at this matchup for those in South Carolina that may be listening and maybe not know much about either program, when you look at tonight's matchup, what jumps off the page to you?
Yeah, I wrote in my preview article, and I had talked to a lot of people out on the left coast because Arkansas fans don't know much about UCLA either. They know Oregon State because they played them in 2018 and played them last year. But left coast schools don't really get into the deep South very much. So it's not the typical West Coast baseball that you think of. And they have Rock Kolowski, who is a Dick Hauser Award finalist. He was a finalist for the Golden Spikes, 24 home runs, 74 RBIs. He's hitting 356, sophomore shortstop. They hit a little better. They're hitting close to 300 on the year. I think they're coming into today's matchup at 298. They don't run the bases very well. So really they're kind of offensively almost a mirror image of Arkansas. Arkansas does things a little bit better in just about every offensive category, but the teams were built the same way. So they've got 6 or 7 guys that are at 300 or above in their lineup. So they're going to put the ball in play. They're a left-handed hitting lineup. They started 6th against LSU. That's why Coach Van Horn and Coach Hobbs went with Zach Root. I thought they would go with Landon Vital Cheese, honestly. He had started in 9 games this year, had a lot in SEC play as well. So it's going to be a lefty lineup. They're going to put the ball in play and hope they can get you out. But everything points to a route, but that just means it's probably going to be 10-9 and go 15 innings.
Kevin, this may be a little bit of putting the cart before the horse, but, our wonderful side of things is we get to talk about it. We're not actually out there playing the games and strategizing. Yeah. So as you look at the other side of the bracket, we're right here in coastal Carolina territory. And as you look at the other side of the bracket, who really on the other side scares you, assuming that Arkansas advances to that winning series?
Coastal Carolina. I mean, they're in the driver's seat, and that's easy to say right now. But I had Coastal winning that side no matter what. I didn't care who was playing them. They played baseball the right way. They came out of the Sun Belt Conference. I consider the Sun Belt a Power 5 conference. I know there's only technically 4, quote unquote, now, but the Sun Belt is just as good of a baseball conference as the American Athletic Conference that has, East Carolina and a lot of those schools. So they only got 2 schools in the NCAA tournament, but both of those were host schools. Troy was left out. That was a slap in the face to the Trojans. They play a great brand of baseball. They're back in the College World Series for the first time since 2016. They do everything the right way. It's a clean, fun way to watch a baseball game, and I wouldn't want to play them right now, and I don't think anybody else does either.
Kevin, last question for you from me, man, before we let you go. We do not know much about Gage Wood other than what he did yesterday. When it comes to life after baseball. Is pro baseball something in the future, possibility for Gage Wood?
He will. Scouts and cross-checkers have seen enough since he's come back from his injury that he can maintain the velocity later. He will be a top 3-round draft pick. I was joking with a good friend of mine yesterday that's a Cardinal scout. I said, hey, Gage has made a little money over the past couple of months. And he laughed at me. He said, a little question mark? Yeah, so he'll have a nice signing bonus. And, he hasn't had many injuries in his pitching career. I still think he has a lot of miles left on his arm. I compare pitchers to running backs that are going into the NFL. There are so many miles that an arm has on it, just like the legs have on it for a running back. So I think he has the opportunity to pitch in pro ball. His profile as a pitcher with the high fastball velocity that rides up well in the zone plays well in the pro game now. So if he can do that and continue to refine his off speed, he can pitch for a long time.
Kevin Bohannon, college baseball writer for 24/7 Sports. We appreciate your time and fantastic insight, and congratulations not only to Gage but to you as his former coach, who Cole said earlier, you get to take a little bit of credit for that. So we appreciate your time.
Hey, Diesel Cole, thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man.
Have a good one.
Appreciate you as well. I'll tell you what, man, I didn't know that.
No.
I booked him, right? And I was like, oh, great rider. Turns out to be Gage Wood's coach.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
The sense of pride that he had to feel, and the nerves that he had to, what a roller coaster.
Oh, we were nervous yesterday. We didn't know the kid.
Yeah.
We didn't know the guy. We were sitting there like freaking out, couldn't believe it. That was cool yesterday. We needed that yesterday for this College World Series.
Well, and he didn't even mention the first hit by pitch that actually put the runner on base, where he caught him just barely on the top of the foot. He talked about the second one that caught that hitter on the elbow there. When we come back, Cole, on the other side of the break, excited to ask this question of you Tolos, because it is one of our regular opportunities to ask you, what do you like? What sports are you watching? And when do you start watching them? This is a Tolo participation segment. I want to get a 1 to 5 score for the major sports here in the U.S. When do you start watching each major sport? That's next. So, a very short segment here, Tolos. Let's jump right back into it. When do you start paying attention to each of the major sports here in America? Very simple scale, Tolo. I need you to start texting in at 844-326-3663 or commenting on the stream. A 1 means the very beginning of the season. 4 means the end of the season. 5 means you don't tune in until the championship series. 1 means very early. 2, 3, 4. Obviously, 4 gets you to the end of the season. 5 is the finals. So college football, Cole, when do you start paying attention to college football?
-5.
So 1.
Yes.
So 1 from you, 1 for me. Tolos, when you text in, make sure you put the sport next to the one you're talking about, because I think these are all going to get kind of jumbled
Again,
up.
1 being the beginning, right?
1's the very beginning.
Very
beginning.
Yeah.
So NFL, when do you start paying attention to the NFL?
1.
1. Okay, for me, the NFL is probably more like a 2. Get a quarter of the way into the season. Now we start paying attention. Tolos, when do you start paying attention to these sports? 1 through 5. How about college basketball for you, Cole?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I thought football would be real easy to gauge where you were going to come from, but when do you start paying attention to college basketball? 4 is the end of the season, so the beginning of the NCAA tournament. Or
1 is 2 and 3 then?
2 and 3, part way into the season.
I'd say 2.
So 2, you start paying attention to college basketball.
I say 2.
I'm a 1 on college basketball for my team, and then for everybody else,
I can't
I'm
do
more
it
like
in
a 3.
November. Like I'm still football mode in November. I'm still,
That's fair.
I'm football mode.
How about the NBA? When do you start paying attention to the NBA?
I've always said the NBA should start on Christmas Day and end when it ends now. I think the games will be more important. I think for me, I'm probably when would you land? Where would you land a 3 if I had to ask?
3 is after the midway point of the season, but
I'd say 2, 2.5. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm more like a 3. I think late in the season, I'm probably more like a 4. Let's be real. I'm more like a 4 on the NBA. How about with college baseball? When do you
1.
tune into college?
I love it.
Very beginning.
Yeah, I do.
Very beginning.
Yeah.
I'm the same way because I want to see my team play well, and I watch all the way through college baseball.
Yeah.
I'm a newfound convert to college baseball. How about
awesome.
Major League Baseball?
Depends how the Braves are doing. I mean, so it's 1 because, like, the Braves get here and I'm ready.
Yep.
So it is 1, but then it could go from 1 to 3. It could go from 3 to 1. It's fluctuating, but I guess I'll have to go 1.
I'm a 3 with Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
By the end of the season, by the 2/3 mark or so, or the 3/4 mark, you start you got a real good sense of who these teams are. That's when I really start paying attention to Major League Baseball. And how about with golf?
This one's hard because the first,
I guess a 5 would be majors only, because there's really no postseason in golf, right?
No. The first one I watched this year was the first one before the Masters, which was that the Players?
The first one before the Masters, it was the Players.
That was the first one I watched in March. I watched the Players in March.
It's a little tougher one to gauge there.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I've watched the Players. I've watched every major, all 3 majors. I watched the RBC at Hilton Head, right? Mm-hmm. So I've probably watched 4 to 5 tournaments. So I guess I'm somewhere in the middle, right?
Probably more like a 3.
Yeah,
2 or
I
3.
guess so.
All right, I'll give you a 2 just for the benefit of the doubt. Make yourself sound a little bit better. I'm a 2 as well. I like tuning in to see who's playing well leading up to the majors.
Me too.
Tolos, and we got a lot of messages that came in on the stream. We're going to try to kind of collate all of these Tolos, and you tell us as well. Oh, we'll hit this one as well, Cole. NASCAR.
Well, Daytona 500 is the first race, so I guess I would say 1, but I would also say it's kind of similar to the Braves where it fluctuates. I don't like the road courses. Like last week, I didn't watch. I watched highlights, but I'm not watching Mexico City. It doesn't move the needle for me. So I watched the beginning, and I watched like 70% of the races, Diesel, but I don't watch every week. So it just depends.
Okay. I'm truth be told, and guys, I've tried. I really have tried. I've tuned in and I've watched. It doesn't stick. I'm more like a 0 with NASCAR. I don't watch it. I've tried.
That's how I am with hockey.
It's just not with me. It's just not for me.
That's how I'm with hockey. I've watched a little bit of hockey.
Tolos, 1 to 5. When do you start paying attention to all the major sports in America? Text in at 844-326-3663. Give us the name of the sport: college football, NFL, college basketball, NBA, college baseball, Major League Baseball, golf, and NASCAR. Text in. 1 is the very beginning of the season. You're locked in from the beginning. 5 means you wait until basically the championship series to start watching. Text in, and we'll see when our Tolos really lock in.
All right, so the magic number is 9. What do I mean by that? You have to turn it on and leave it on to find out. The magic number is 9. Well, the magic number, ladies and gentlemen, is 9. What do I mean? What am I talking about?
The 9 ring wraiths from Lord of the Rings?
No, not that. Good guess.
The 9 companions of the Fellowship who
Nope.
were set against the ring wraith.
No. JD guessed 9 being the amount of games a Big Ten or SEC team wins to make the play. No.
Cole's pinky ring size.
I don't know. I can't say no. I can say I don't know. But 9, Diesel, today is the 17th of June. If you didn't know that, good morning, good afternoon. Next week will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, officially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks away from college football. That's it. Under double digits. We're no longer in the double digits. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we can start to see the light 9 weeks away. It doesn't sound that bad. It really just doesn't sound that. We can
But
do that.
9 weeks is a long time.
But 9 weeks, we're actually playing football. I mean, it's not that bad. You throw in a couple of weeks, you and I will be out on, our vacation, whatever it may be. It's probably more like 8 weeks for you and I.
That's 63 sleeps, though.
That's not bad.
60.
That's not bad. No, we can do it. We can do
long
it.
time.
So, on this Tuesday, Tolos, welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. With the magic number being 9, we need your assistance. I have 9 quarterbacks who are entering the 2025 season as the top 9 quarterbacks in the college football rankings, right? The 9 best. And Diesel, I want to allow the Tolos out there today to help you and I rank these 9. So you have Carson Beck, Lenora Sellers, DJ Lagway, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, Sam Levitt, Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, and Kevin Jennings of SMU as your 9 quarterbacks. So here's how this works. Diesel and I, before this segment is over at 5:20-ish, we have to have a top 9. We have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And Tolos, you can give your recommendations by calling 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. If we could get 9 Tolos, it'd be great because we could just choose one quarterback and try to place that quarterback. But Diesel, if we have to start at 9 to make it easy, because these are all really good quarterbacks, by the way.
Yeah.
They're good quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Again,
tough spot to be
it's
in.
tough. Beck, Sellers, Lagway, Nussmeier, Aller, Levitt, Manning, Klubnik, and Jennings. Those are the 9. I know there might be one out there that I missed, and I get that. But these are the 9 that we're going with in this very segment. Again, 844-326-3663 is how you can participate. And I want to open the phone lines up as well. They are open. If you want to give us and say Kevin Jennings is 9 or whatever it may be, that's fine. If you want to say so-and-so is 1, that's fine. We'll put them there, and then Diesel and I will have the final say in terms of where these quarterbacks have to go. But let's start with 9.
So are we ranking them based on how good we think they are or how good of a season we think they're going to have? Like potential?
Yes.
Both?
I mean, we're ranking them on where we see them today before any football has been played, obviously.
Oh,
where we see these quarterbacks as, if you just said straight up to me, Diesel, Carson Beck's better than Lenora Sellers. That's just straight up who you think is better today on the 17th of June. Who you think the better quarterback is, right?
Can we go 1, A, B, C, D,
Right,
E?
yeah.
I mean, because they're all really good.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So we have 1 through 1A through 1I, right? They're all really good. And that's why this makes this conversation so difficult, because these are the 9 best quarterbacks probably in the country. So let's start with 9. And again, Tolos, want to hear from you as we go through each one as we begin this drill. This is not an easy drill, by the way. As Diesel said, it's tough. But you and I have to find a 9. The Tolos can tell us you're onto something, you're not onto something, you need to move this. We'll take Tolo recommendations, but ultimately Diesel and I will have the final say.
Yeah.
And I think as we get Diesel, I'll tell you what I think. I think 5 through 9 will be the most difficult. And then I think we can work our way up. Obviously, to your question, we didn't see Arch Manning last year a ton, so we can't say, oh, we know he's better than Cade Klubnik. You know, what we're doing is we're saying we think that Cade or Arch is better than so-and-so going into the 2025 season. Who the better quarterback is in our mind. And you and I may disagree as well. But of these, if you have to find a 9, I've pulled stats from 2024. You look at Carson Beck, 3,000 yards plus. Lenoris, 2,000.
With Georgia.
That's right. Good point. With
Going
Georgia.
to a different team.
Carolina, Lenoris had 2,500. DJ had 1,900. Remember that. Garrett Nussmeier, 4,000. Drew Aller at Penn State, 3,000. Sam Levitt, Arizona State, 2,800. Arch Manning, just 900. He didn't play. Cade, 3,000. Kevin Jennings, I have to pull his because I don't have his right in front of me, but these are all good quarterbacks. So finding a 9 is a little bit tough, right?
Yeah, it's finding a worst, and it's hard to
What's your name?
tag the word worst on any of these guys. I'm gonna go for my number.
What's your recommendation for 9?
My recommendation for 9. Even though I like this guy, Sam Levitt from Arizona State.
I was leaning
It
that
was
way.
between
Yeah.
Sam and Kevin
Okay.
because SMU lost so much in the offseason. I mean, I know he was really good last year, but he also looked really sloppy in the bowl game, or not the bowl game, but the college football playoff game against Penn State. So I'm gonna say Levitt, Sam Levitt's my number 9, and my number 8's gonna be Kevin Jennings.
You and I are in unison. Those were my 8 and 9 as well. I like Sam Levitt. I really do. I think he's got a lot of upside. But you and I are in unison. Let's see what Ethan on the phone lines has to say about this 8-9 situation, or if he has any other comments at 844-326-3663. Phone lines are open. What's up, Ethan?
I definitely agree with 8 and 9, especially since Cam Scatabo left Arizona State.
Okay.
Definitely takes away an additional threat. So Sam Levitt's going to have more pressure on him.
You would go who at 9, Ethan?
I would go Sam Levitt at 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Jennings at 8?
Number 8, Jennings. And then, I don't know. I think 7, maybe Carson Beck.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Wow.
That's good.
He's going to Miami. And at Georgia, he was good, but he struggled once in a blue moon.
Ethan, Diesel and I approve of your 8 and 9. We all are in unison. But before we let you go, if you have to give a 1 recommendation, who is your 1 recommendation of the ones that I listed off?
I'm a Texas guy, but I can't say Arch just because he didn't play at all last year, which is upsetting, but it's only fair. So I'd go Lenoris. I'd go Lenore.
Wow.
Sellers,
Okay.
the best quarterback in the country.
I like it.
Yeah, with a dual threat like that, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ethan, where are you calling from real quick?
Greenville.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Ethan.
Ethan from Greenville. I like that. It's bold, but I like it, right?
We want to
Lenore
hear
Sellers at
from
1.
Ethan more often.
That's right.
Call back in.
Good call, Ethan.
So
I'm going to put Lenoris as 1 vote for number 1 already. How about
Wow.
that? That's
Okay.
high praise, isn't it?
So 9-8, we're in agreement there.
Yep.
For my 7, let's go. I'm just gonna go 7-6. Okay, we'll go 2 at a time here. For my 7, I'm putting Drew Aller as my 7 and Carson Beck as my 6.
Oh boy.
Drew Aller and Carson Beck.
Oh boy.
Drew played better in this playoff than he has in the past, but he didn't blow me away as a quarterback.
Yeah, last year, Drew Aller, 3,327 yards.
I know. He didn't blow me away. He just threw for 3,000 yards.
Well, 24 touchdowns, 8 picks, QBR of 77, which was 16th in the country. 6 touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns, school tied in the season. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to look now as we're at 7-6. And by the way, phone lines, as Ethan took it up, they're open. Good call, Ethan. Tolos, help us with 7-6. Is there a Tolo out there that wants to help us with 7-6 at 844-326-3663? So here's my issue. I don't have a problem with your Drew Aller at 7. Who'd you say at 6?
Carson Beck.
Okay, mine was between Carson Beck and DJ Lagway. Who would your other 6 be between if you had? Would it be DJ there?
My other
or
6?
Or are we already giving Arch Manning too much credit?
I'm gonna put Arch at my 5 just because he's unproven, right? But we know who Carson Beck is, and we know who Drew Aller are. We know what their upside is, and it's still very good. But I think the other guys on this list have more upside down the road.
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna highlight Carson Beck in red, so I know it's you. Yep. But you and I agree on 7, 8, 9. Drew Aller, Kevin Jennings, Sam Levitt. At 6, I'm gonna put Arch Manning at 6.
Ooh.
Is that too disrespectful there?
No, because body of work has to matter, and it shows that you're not
that's
completely
tough.
beholden
That's
to the hype,
tough, man.
Right?
That's tough. I like Arch though.
Yeah.
But again, what has Arch done? By the way, JB on the YouTube stream says DJ Lagway 5, Arch Manning at 6. So we're all kind of strutting in the same motion here. On the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, JD says Levitt 9, Jennings 8, Lagway 7, Arch 6, Beck at 5, Aller at 4. Ooh, that's high. Sellers at 3, Nussmeier at 1. Yeah, you missed 2. Cade Klubnik. All right, so far, let's reset. I've got you and I have Sam Levitt 9, Kevin Jennings 8, Drew Aller 7.
Mm-hmm.
You in the red font on our rundown has Carson Beck at 6. Yep. I have Arch Manning at 6.
Okay. I've got Arch at 5.
Okay. So we're not far off there on Arch, right?
Right.
We both have him at 5, 6. I'm going to go. Oh, boy, this is where it gets tough, right? This is where it gets tough. I'm high on Kevin Jennings. I'm high on Cade Klubnik. I'm high on Lenoris. I'm pretty high on DJ Lagway, but am I higher? Here's where I am right now. Am I higher on DJ Lagway or I'm going to go Carson Beck. So you and I are just going to flip-flop those two.
Okay.
See what we did there?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to flip-flop. You have Carson at 6. I have him at 5. You have Arch at 6. I have him at – no, you have Arch at 5. I have him at 6. So that leads us to 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep. I've got – for my number 4, I've got DJ Lagway at Florida. He came in as a true freshman, 6-1 start, MVP in his bowl game, dual threat guy. I think the sky is the limit for DJ Lagway.
I do too.
I'm really impressed with him.
So you're going DJ Lagway at 4.
I am.
So you and I actually have the same 4 remaining. We have DJ Lagway.
Mm-hmm.
We have Cade, Kevin, and Lenoris. Is that right?
No, I have Kevin Jennings at my number 8.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
You're missing.
Who am I missing?
You're missing Garrett Nussmeier.
Oh, I'm an idiot. How could I miss him? I said last year during the season I thought he was the best quarterback in the Okay, so the remaining 4, we have DJ, Garrett, Cade, and Lenoris.
Yes.
DJ, okay, let me think here. DJ, Cade. Okay. You're going DJ Lagway at 4. I am going to go DJ Lagway is also at 4. Yeah. Yep. I'm going to change that one to black because you and I agree with that one on the font. Yep. So that leaves 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
I've got.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to give you my medal stand all at once here.
Okay.
Third place, I've got Lenoris Sellers. I think the world of Lenora Sellers. I think he's really, really good. And I think by the time he's a senior, if he stays in college all the way to his senior year, he's going to be incredible. He really is. I still, wins and losses have to matter. Getting his team there has to matter. Lenore's was a little bit mistake prone, but not bad. I mean, he wasn't bad as a first-year starter last year. So I've got Lenore's as my 3, Cade Klubnik is my 2, and Garrett Nussmeier is my 1. I think Garrett Nussmeier is the best quarterback in college football this year.
Okay, so I am going to put those 3 in red. And Tolos, now that we're at the top 3, want to hear from you on the text line. Phone line's open as well at 844-326-3663. Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, and Lenora Sellers are in Diesel and I's are in our top 3. So Diesel has Lenoris at 3, Cade at 2, Garrett at 1. I also have Lenoris at 3. So I'm going to change that font back to black. So you and I agree at DJ Lagway at 4, Lenoris at 3. Completely fine with that. However, I am going to flip-flop, and I am going to go Garrett Nussmeier 2, and I am going to be the biased one of the bunch and go Cade Klubnik at 1. So, again, we're just flip-flopped by a couple of these.
Yeah, we're fairly close here.
We are. So, I'm in green there. You're in red.
If DJ Lagway had a full season. So he
might be 1.
Let's start comparing these two side by side. We've got a flip-flop on Cade and Garrett at 1 and 2. So where we are with DJ Lagway and Lenora Sellers at 3-4. If DJ Lagway had the full season to start, do you think you'd have flip-flopped him?
I think he'd be top 3.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Last year, DJ Lagway was 115 of 192, which was 59% passing, which is good. 1,915 yards. You said it. Limited reps, right? Limited snaps. 12 touchdowns, 9 picks. QBR of 57.9. So his QBR wasn't great, but what factors into QBR is the amount of reps. Just like batting average, QBR, the less reps, the more reps, it can factor in heavily there. So there's our list, Tolos. Do you agree? Do you disagree? John Dog says, Cole, calm down on that keyboard. John Dog, I'm sorry, man. Literally.
It's the loudest keyboard ever.
It is, and my mic sits literally right above it.
And it can't go anywhere else because the mic arm springs are not strong enough to hold it.
Sorry, John Dog. I'm sorry.
It is what it is, man.
The keyboard does drive a few folks crazy. That's how we know when somebody's, listening out there. They may not take that keyboard gets them though. So a couple messages on the text line. Stream, a lot of messages on the stream. JB, JD going back and forth. Ethan weighed in as well.
For what it's worth here, Cole, I asked ChatGPT to rank those 9 quarterbacks. These idiots. This idiot AI ranks Arch Manning as the number 1 quarterback.
Of course,
because there's he's commanding early buzz as the Texas starter.
Of course. That's what it said as number 1.
Yeah.
And again,
Heisman favorite, early buzz.
Look, the reality is, I will admit, he may be.
Yeah.
He may be, but last year he had 939 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks, good QBR, good rating, 67% completion. That's all good.
Hey, we expect these guys to come in and be basically perfect right out of the gate, right? We don't give many quarterbacks a year or 2 years to figure it out. That's what's so incredible about Cade Klubnik. Maybe it's that Clemson didn't have a lot of options, and Christopher Vezina just wasn't quite there. I mean, remember early in the season last year, we were talking about Christopher Vezina taking over.
Yeah,
and being the guy. We were talking about, I'm blanking on his name now, the guy that threw a touchdown in the spring game.
Yeah, from Daniel.
About
two spring games ago.
What if he could come in
and
take over as the starter? And it's been a masterclass in sticking with a guy long enough to let him develop from Dabo Swinney and letting Cade Klubnik develop.
I just think ultimately, and again, I said back during college football season, Diesel, at the end of the season, that I thought Clemson had a really good shot. And the college football season was still going on. The playoffs were still going on. And I said that I thought in 2025, Clemson had a legit shot to win the national championship. Here's the reason I put Cade up there. A lot of it has to do with Cade and how good he is, but I also think when you look at the wide receiver room and you talk about Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, Tyler Brown, Tristan Smith, and Cole Turner, he's going to have the weapons around him this year that nobody else has, which will in turn make him look better, right? That's what good wide receivers do. I will say, though, I love Garrett Nussmeier. That kid last year at South Carolina, when they came back from down 17, he put on a show at Williams-Brice. I mean, he's really good. I'm high on Garrett. This is a hard. We're splitting hairs in the top three. Lenore's is really good, but we'll see. That's what it is. That's why we make the predictions that we do.
Texter gets in and gives his top 9, but he doesn't give his name. He says Nussmeier 1, number 2 Sellers, 3 Lagway, 4 Klubnik, 5 Beck, 6 Aller, 7 Manning, 8 Levitt, and 9 Jennings.
We'll keep these, Diesel, and revisit them.
Yeah,
as the year goes on, because it's going to be interesting.
When we come back, Cole is putting a piece of Cowboys memorabilia that he loves.
Oh no!
One of his prized possessions, putting it on the line in a game of how well does Cole actually know his team? You got to get 5 questions right. I've got 7. So you get 2 extra credit, by the way.
So I've got to get 5 out of 7 right?
You got to get 5 out of 7 right.
Boy, this is not going to be
good. And if you do, you get to keep this very special item.
No.
If not, you've got to surrender it unto me. That's next. Score update, bottom of the 8th. Louisville has busted this one open to a tune of 6-3 over Oregon State in the elimination game. It was a tight game a couple of innings ago when Oregon State had the bases loaded, couldn't do anything with it. So Louisville maintains a comfortable lead. Cole, as many of our Tolos know, you are a diehard, and by diehard I mean hopeless,
stupid,
Dallas Cowboys fan.
Idiotic.
Yeah, you're one of those, right? Who no matter how many times they break your heart, how many times they make you feel bad about yourself, they find ways to pull you back in and keep you going as a fan. I don't know what it is.
I don't either. Just so you know.
I try to tell you, you don't have to be a Cowboys fan. You could choose to give it all away and go be a Chiefs fan. Experience winning.
Yeah, but as soon as I do that, they'll start sucking too. That's just the way it's going to – I mean, come on.
So, Cole, we're going to play a little game
I'm
here.
nervous, by the way.
And you are a diehard fan here, okay? We're going to put a piece of Cowboys memorabilia that you love. You've agreed to bring it in tomorrow if you lose this challenge. You've agreed to bring this item in.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably going to be – I don't have a ton of memorabilia, but I'd say it's probably I do have a signed jersey, I think.
Signed? Is it a wearable jersey?
Or I wear it.
Oh, you wear it.
Yeah.
An autographed CeeDee Lamb jersey.
Yeah.
So here's what's going to happen. If you lose this challenge, I'm going to give this jersey to my dog for 24 hours.
I thought you said the homeless guy.
No. He wouldn't want it. But I'm going to give it to my dog for 24 hours, and if it gets chewed up, it gets chewed up. If it comes back in great shape, well, then it proves that my dog has good taste, and even he won't destroy a Dallas Cowboys item. So here we go, Cole. Are you ready to do a little Dallas Cowboys?
No, I'm going to be so bad at this.
Let's turn this channel on and keep it relatively low because this audio bed is a little bit loud.
Gotcha.
So here we go, Cole. If the audio wants to start playing, some modern game show music.
I like that. I like that. Makes me a little nervous. It feels like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is what it feels like.
Cole, what was the original reason that the Dallas Cowboys were founded in 1960, despite the NFL already having a team in Texas?
The Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs were the reason. They weren't the Kansas City Chiefs at the time. At the time, what year? What did you say?
1960.
Yeah, so there were two leagues.
Mm-hmm.
My details are going to be a little off.
It's okay. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt on some of the exact.
So what are now the Kansas City Chiefs were the Dallas Texans? Mm-hmm. I'm pulling that up. I think I'm right on that. I do not have the rundown. I have the text line open, by the way. So if I look there, I see the stream. Don't help me there, Tolos as well. Yeah, I'm going to say it was because the NFL. It was the NFL and the other league. They did not want. They didn't want the other league to have what soon went to be the Kansas City Chiefs in Dallas.
Correct answer.
Okay, good.
They founded the Dallas Cowboys in 1960 to block the AFL.
There you go.
From establishing a franchise in Dallas.
You go.
The Dallas Texans later became the Kansas City Chiefs. So it was a strategic move by the NFL to retain control in the state of Texas.
I'm looking at the Dallas Texans logo.
Is it better than the?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It really is. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so you got one out of 5.
How many do I have to get right?
You got 5 questions, and you get 2 extra credits.
Okay. Oh boy.
But so there you go. You got to get 5 out of 7.
I think. What if that's? That might be the only one I get. I'm nervous about the rest.
Which undrafted free agent linebacker led the team in tackles in 3 straight seasons from 2006 to 2008? Undrafted free agent linebacker led the team in tackles from 06 to 08.
If you wouldn't have said undrafted, I would have said Sean Lee. But Sean Lee was drafted. Sean Lee was drafted in 2006. Undrafted?
A UDFA.
Led the team in tackles.
3 straight years. This is modern era stuff here, Cole.
I know, but I'm just
less than 20 years ago.
Undrafted free agent So this would have been at the beginning, near the beginning of the Romo era. No, not yet. Not yet.
So I'm going to get you to also do the sound effects on this side. If you get the answer right, I'm going to give you a thumbs up. If you get it wrong,
Okay. I'm
going to give you a thumbs down.
Okay. I'll be honest with you.
5 more seconds.
I don't know.
So I didn't know.
I don't.
It's Brady James. Brady James led the team in tackles.
Hold on. I gotta look him.
You're okay. So here's your makeup for this. I'm going to give you a chance to make this one up.
Oh God.
This is extra credit question number 1. His name was Brady James.
Yeah.
What did his teammates nickname him?
Oh boy. That jersey's, I guess, that jersey's gone. I don't know how any fan would know this.
I'll give you a hint. It is similar and starts with the same letter as Brady.
It starts with B.
It starts with a B.
And it's similar to Brady.
Yep. It is a woman's name. It is a woman's name.
When you say similar,
Fairly uncommon woman's name, but it is a woman's name.
not Brandy.
But
I don't know.
It's Barbie.
Barbie.
His teammates nicknamed him Barbie.
James. That's funny. That's you've given me two tough ones. These are tough.
Well, I thought you were a super fan.
No, I'm not. Evidently not. These
I
are
thought
tough.
you were. Now you're questioning your fandom, aren't you?
Those two were tough. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay. Well, hopefully you'll get the rest. And to be honest, you have to get 3 out of the last 4 to save this item.
You didn't give me any layups in this.
No,
well,
I
the first
didn't.
one was fairly easy.
Because I assumed you were a hardcore fan.
Oh my gosh!
Here we go. Question number 3. What unique statistical distinction does Cowboys quarterback Danny White hold in franchise playoff history?
Say it again.
What unique statistical distinction does Cowboys quarterback Danny White hold in franchise playoff history?
Here's the problem. This is 80s we're talking about, right? 70s, 80s, 90s? No, it's not 90s. It's 80s. I'm pretty sure
it was
it's 80s.
early 80s.
80s?
It was early 80s.
Oh, boy.
And
I went alive.
I'll give you a hint, and that it bears a similarity to what happened with Jim Kelly in Buffalo.
Oh, well, I know that. That helped a lot because Buffalo stands for Boy, I Love Losing Super Bowls. They never won one. Every one they've been in, they lost. Okay, so Danny White in the playoffs, you're saying is similar to Buffalo. Danny White, I don't think ever won a Super Bowl.
It's not Super Bowl related.
Okay. So if he didn't win a Super Bowl, he would have had to lose in the NFC Championship? Not once? Did he lose 3 times?
He lost 3 times in a row.
You're kidding me. Oh, my
3 consecutive
gosh.
NFC Championship games. 1980, 81, and 82, and lost all 3.
Oh, my word. That's not something
Lost
to be proud
all
of. 3.
3.
See, I was 80s.
Yeah.
That's 80s. That's really tough there.
Who was the Cowboys' first 1,000-yard receiver in franchise history? Are these too hard?
These are hard.
These too hard.
These are like
I
really
thought you
hard.
would know these.
What year? I mean, what year it was? Do we have?
I'll give you the year. 1966.
You expected? Oh, I was gonna say. Oh my gosh. 1966. I'm not a historian. I'm not a Dallas Cowboy historian. What's the text line? Are they making fun of me bad? No. I'm not getting made fun of on the text line. I will have to say on this one, I don't know.
It's Bob Hayes. Bob Hayes. 1966. First Dallas Cowboy with 1,000-yard
So
receiver.
I've already lost, right?
No, you got to get these next 2 right, though.
Okay. Oh boy.
In what year did the Cowboys wear the infamous double star alternate uniforms? Or if you
This
can't
is
get
so
the
tough.
year, why did they stop wearing them? Or why did they never wear them again?
I've heard about them. I think it was a superstitious thing, but I would say it was in the. Okay, I'll tell you this. I think it was in the 90s.
I'll give you a 5-year window. How about this? This is a hard question. I'll give you a 5-year window. If you can get within the 5-year window.
I'd say it's of when they stopped, when they wore them
When
and
they
stopped
wore
wearing them. And they wear them again, right?
Yeah.
I'd say the heart of the Cowboys, 96. Okay. How about that?
It was 1994. It was 1994. They wore them as part of the NFL's 75th anniversary season. They never wore them again because players and coaches thought they were bad luck.
Okay,
You got
so
that
I got
part
that
right.
right, yeah.
After a playoff loss to the 49ers.
There's always a playoff loss to the 49ers. That's happened like every year. Okay, so not too bad there. Not too
Okay,
bad.
so here's another new one, Cole. I'm going to give you 2006. In 2006, this is for all the marbles. In 2006, the Dallas Cowboys signed kicker Mike Vanderjagt, the most accurate kicker in NFL history at the time. But he was benched for whom?
I know this one. I do know this one because it was he played in the Romo era. He was really good. Martin Gramatica. Yes,
Look at that. Cole gets to keep his stuff.
Yes.
Wow.
Martin Gramatica was really good. He was really good. He was really, really good. I just didn't know. I didn't know where that was going there. There was a lot of Romo and Gramatica in the same era. Those were hard, man.
Did I make him too hard?
They were hard. It challenged me.
You did well.
Yeah.
You did well.
Thankfully, I knew who Martin Gramatica was.
Don't ask me Carolina Panthers trivia because I'll get none.
I'm just so bad at like history stuff. I mean, I like if it were all within the last 10 years, I think I'd do a lot better. But that's tough. It is. That is tough.
Dan B says that's worse than Bernie Kosar losing 2 in a row to Denver. I assume he's going back to the question
3
about
in a row.
Yeah, the
NFC
quarterback who
champion.
lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, Danny White.
Danny White.
That's embarrassing. I mean,
But what's not embarrassing is that performance you just put on, Cole.
Well,
Pretty good.
yeah, not bad. How many up?
5 out of 7 on hard questions.
They were hard. They were hard. Real hard.
Yeah.
What's not hard is the Daily Wires. That's easy. It's the top stories in sports. Next.
Don't let them tell you there's nothing going on in sports, Cole. We've been talking about all kinds of sports today with NHL, NBA playoffs, golf changing things up when it comes to leadership. But here's what else is happening in the sports world. These are our Daily Wires. This is the buzz happening around the sports world. The Thunder beat the Pacers last night in Game 5 of the NBA Finals, 120-109. Oklahoma City holds a 3-2 lead and will play Game 6 Thursday night in Indiana. This is do or die time for the Pacers. They've got to get it figured out, especially with Tyrese Halliburton being a little bit gimpy.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I'm wrong, but it kind of feels like this one is headed the wrong direction for the Pacers.
We have, Cole, the update for you on the game that started last night with LSU and UCLA.
Oh, yeah.
It was suspended, and it resumed earlier today. LSU beat UCLA 9-5 in an elimination game.
9-5.
Does that mean UCLA is done?
UCLA is not done. UCLA.
Oh, it's the double elimination.
Yep,
Excuse me. Apologies.
But
I got to win 2 or 3.
LSU now sitting real pretty. They are in the same boat that Coastal's in. They have not lost, Diesel.
An update for you right now. The score still 6-3 in Louisville versus Oregon State, top of the 9th.
How about Louisville, man? They've kind of surprised some people in this College World Series. I don't know if I expected them to make this run. You got to give a lot of credit to Louisville there.
And, of course, we'll have the later game this evening, UCLA versus Arkansas. That is an elimination game.
That's going to be a good one.
Yep. Arkansas, the line on them is -500. Heavy favorites in this one. Over under 10.5 runs, so we could see some fireworks tonight.
We could. You know what? We'll have the interview again in the 6 o'clock hour, but our guest, Kevin Diesel, I don't know, that -500 for a game tonight that seems like it will be closer than. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that I would consider them that heavy of favorites tonight.
The Braves are back in action tonight against the New York Mets. Spencer Schwellenbach will be on the mound for Atlanta versus David Peterson from New York. The Mets very good. The Braves took 2 or 3 against the Rockies. Did not look good in game number 3. How do you feel about their chances of getting past the Mets?
Now, I think they'll be lucky to win 1.
Yep.
I hate to say that, but I think they'll be lucky to win 1.
Security measures have been heightened at the Club World Cup in Miami following last year's chaotic scenes at the Copa America final. Remember that one when fans were busting holes in fences, in ceiling tiles, and making their way into the stadium? A really scary scene. They're expecting nearly 120,000 fans have attended the opening 2 games, greeted by extra checkpoints and a heavy police presence. Again, they learned their lesson from last time, and they have vowed to fix it this time around. Tonight in the NHL, Game 6 between the Oilers and Panthers. Florida has home ice. Puck drop going to be at 8 o'clock. The Oilers kind of flip-flopping back and forth on who their goaltender is going to be, because they've given up a lot of goals this series.
Do we have much faith in Edmonton tonight?
No, not really. I think Florida's going to go ahead and close this one out.
I feel like they will. I think it might be closer. The last 2 haven't been close at all. It just feels like Florida's kind of. It kind of feels like they smell blood in the water.
Edmonton's not playing up to their standard of offensive hockey. They're not scoring goals, and Florida just keeps on coming at you. Shohei Ohtani, his 10th pitch Monday night, clocked at 100.2 miles per hour. His 17th pitch came in at 99.9 miles an hour. The Dodgers did vow to be careful with his return to pitching, with some caution, saying, quote, "I was just kind of hoping for more tempered 97, 96 than 100, said Dodgers manager Dave Roberts.
But you know what? We saw a little bit of Shohei on them. I mean, it wasn't much.
Shohei showed us something. As he prepares for his 23rd NBA season, LeBron James said his priority is getting his left knee healthy in time for training camp. LeBron says his knee's feeling good after he sprained a ligament in April during the season-ending playoff series loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 5.
Got to get that. I mean, is it time? Is he old enough now that we're talking about knee replacement? I mean, come on. It's tough.
Look, I mean, anybody that's had a car that was about 20 years old knows that little things start going wrong here and there, and all of a sudden you're chasing. You're trying to fix this issue, you're trying to fix that issue, and it never stops.
Getting up there.
The Hub City Spartanburgers are back in action tonight at Bowling Green. First pitch at 7:35. They've been on a bit of a skid lately.
Oh, skid. They lost 7 in a row. I don't know what's going on, but Bowling Green, hopefully, Hub City can turn the tide a little bit because now you mentioned yesterday, they're below 500. They had a rough week last week, man. Just not one single win and got swept. Lost the Sunday before that. So maybe the Burgers on the road tonight can get things going again.
Yesterday in Omaha, Arkansas's Gage Wood pitched the third no-hitter in Men's College World Series history and the first in 65 years. He struck out a record 19 and never let Murray State come close to getting a hit in the Arkansas 3-0 victory. Wood joined Jim Erler of Texas in 1950 and Jim Wixon of Oklahoma State in 1960 as the only pitchers to throw Men's College World Series no-hitters. If he hadn't grazed the shoelace of that one batter, he would have had the very first perfect game in College World Series history.
And you'll hear him in the 6 o'clock hour, about 6:25. But Kevin Bohannon, only if today, Diesel, we could have Gage Wood's coach on the show. Oh, wait, we did. We're going to replay it for you at 6:20. Kevin Bohannon, he was fantastic. If you missed it, make sure you're tuning in at 6:20.
Ipe Mizahara, the former interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, is in federal prison now in Pennsylvania. Mizahara was ordered to surrender to federal authorities by Monday, which he did. He is in custody at Federal Correctional Institution Allenwood Low, a low-security facility, after being sentenced to 57 months in prison for stealing nearly $17 million from his employer.
Can you gamble in prison? Ipe, just asking for a friend.
I mean, think about it. What if you had one of those pools of who's going to get stabbed today?
Oh, no, that was not good. Might be Ipe.
Cole, last one here for you. Pete Thamel is reporting on Twitter that Texas State is emerging as a, quote, heavy favorite to join the Pac-12.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, the Pac-12, which, Washington State, Oregon State, and reconstituted it themselves with basically every school that has the word state in their name on the West Coast is now coming halfway across the country to Texas. Remember a number of years ago when it was basically a done deal that Texas and Oklahoma were going to the Pac-12? How things have changed since then.
Do you have to have state in your name to go to the Pac-12?
Pretty much.
Is that how it works?
They should just call it Pac State.
That's not
State
Texas State. That's interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Texas State is a huge school.
Yeah.
But they are terrible at just about everything.
I was going to say, I don't really remember them
They
being
came out of nowhere last year and were decent as a G5 program.
Yeah.
But they have no history of elite college football. They have no history of elite college baseball or basketball either.
How about
But they're big.
Yeah, let's dive right back into the conversation, Diesel, about last night's NBA game. Also, let's touch on the ratings. This is a really fascinating conversation. If you're watching on the stream, hop over to the free Odyssey app as we try to push Tolos to the Odyssey app as well, AUDACY, or 97.1 Spartanburg, or 97.7 FM in Greenville. NBA, the Thunder are on top. They have one game to go. We'll get into it next.